We're on a road to nowhere. Come on inside. Taking that ride to nowhere. We'll take that ride. I'm feeling okay this morning. And you know, we're on the road to paradise. Here we go, here we go. There's a city in my mind. Come along and take that ride, and it's alright, baby, it's alright. And it's very far away, but it's growing day by day, and it's alright, baby, it's alright. Would you like to come along, and you can help me sing this song, and it's alright, baby, it's alright. There's a city in my mind. Come along and take that ride, and it's alright, baby, it's alright. And it's very far away, but it's growing day by day. It's alright, baby, it's alright. They could tell you what to do, but they'll make a fool of you, and it's alright, baby, it's alright.
Hello, and I see Vegan Succubus and Jenna Colby in the comments. Two of my favorite peoples. Let's see. Josh, thank you so much for joining. So tonight's exciting because we're all in Pennsylvania, and we are so excited to have this shit show kind of culminate to an ending. So my guests tonight are, I'm always, to me, it's not Christina, it's PK, who ran for governor, and Michael, who lieutenant governor for Green. And I'm so excited. I got to vote for both of them today. So thank you guys so much for joining. And we were talking a little bit before the show started, and Michael said that he was relieved since it's today. So if you guys want to introduce yourself a little more.
Yeah, Michael.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah, I'm Michael Bagdis Canning. I am the mayor of Cherry Valley Borough in northern Butler County, and a big fan of PK, Christina.
I'm PK, or Christina DeGiulio, as was on the ballot. And I'm a watchdog and water protector out here in Chester County, Pennsylvania. And I'm a big fan of Michael Bagdis Canning.
I'm a big fan of both of you. It was pretty, me and PK go back. I mean, we stood with indigenous peoples as they fought for their land, and we protested about these water, I call them water slides. They were they're pipelines that are like bright orange that literally looks like water slides all over people's property. And PK, I've seen her at the Capitol, the PA Capitol, numerous times. We've protested Governor Wolf and Lieutenant Governor Fetterman because of the atrocities they do to our environment here in PA. So to see actual activists running, not just people who say, well, I protested Trump once or something like that. Like, these two people are activists. They're organizers. They have been in the streets. They have, for years. And I was so excited to finally vote for someone, not just because I know them, but to vote for my comrades. Like, these are the people I'm in the streets with. This is so exciting to me to be able to vote for that. So PK, why don't we start with you? PK is a scientist and she has drones. She watches over all of the fracking, the pipelines, everything like that. She legit is a watchdog. So why don't we talk to you first? What, you are an environmentalist, you're a scientist. Why did you decide to run for governor?
I kind of blame that on Michael. We got out of an action and I don't know if there was like adrenaline or something, but he calls me afterwards. He's like, hey, I think you should run for a governor. I was just, why not you? So, but, I couldn't even say no because of what I'm going through. It's just, you do your due diligence and, you just see how the system is just so set up against us that, like, I don't know, maybe we're go-getters. We're just going to go after, like, disrupt the corrupt is kind of one of my things. Like, if I'm going to come to your realm, all these elections screw up our activism. Everybody just turns away all of a sudden from helping people because they can't be on, they can't, their party doesn't necessarily accept it, or right now. We'll be back. But no, it was just so disruptive in a sense to, getting people to listen to us. I've literally taken people on properties that I promised would be heard of. One of them being John Fetterman. I didn't personally do that, but my group did that. I've taken several, and they get in on that, and these people then get no help afterwards, and it's like the most heartbreaking. And I felt accountable because I, have the access to these people's property. They trust me as a watchdog. They allowed me on, and I convinced them to, be vulnerable to these people, and they got lied to. It was abusive to me. These people are already traumatized and impacted, and just from why I was sitting in a bucket like a Muppet getting arrested with
I remember that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And that Michael was my he was watching over me. I was so happy it was him because he knows what he's doing, and he's just a very knowledgeable person as to how this goes. He's just always checking on me and like had a great attitude. And when he told me like let's run for governor, I was just like, I mean, maybe, but I think something struck me that said, why not? I'm going to enter their realm now. If we're disruptors, I'm here to disrupt that too, because I'm not, the injustice, especially the environmental injustice that we're seeing. It's how do you sit back and beg the oppressor more and more? Like, it doesn't work. You got to stop it at one point. And having safe people around you that do that is awesome. So yeah, I'm going to say, why did I run? Michael, it's your fault.
And just to clarify for people who don't know this, PK literally, when she says she was in a bucket, like she literally means she was in a bucket.
Yeah, the excavator. I mean, it was like supposed to go a lot. I mean, I like wore a diaper, and it was just supposed to go a lot longer than that. But, we had a great team going in for the nonviolent direct action. And when they direct me to do things, I did it. And me and my friend Connor we were literally told by Kim Frashak to sit down in the bucket now. And I'm just like, okay. And we sat there, and it was probably the most comfortable nonviolent direct action. We were in like winter gear, warm, comfortable. They put pads on our butt. We were comfortable. I was like, is this how this works? But we were doing it for a reason. And we went to court afterwards and pleaded not guilty with a wonderful attorney, Jack Reed, who has passed on. And, he's a shining light in my life. Like, I just learned so much from him, working with him. But he got us a not guilty when we pled not guilty to a little tiny like misdemeanor. But like, we had a 3-hour court case with expert witnesses. And literally the message we got, which is not the best, is that we are in imminent danger. So our actions were justified under the justification statute. We were justified in doing what we were doing because the harm that we were doing was lesser than the harm that we were trying to prevent. There it is. So yeah, if that came to me, like when Michael called me and told me that, I was like, why not?
Hell yeah. Michael, how about you? Did you just kind of get suckered into it because you were the one that asked?
Wait, say that.
No, not really. I didn't want to run. I think that I was the proper face for the Green Party. I really thought that should be somebody else besides an old white guy with a beard. But PK running made it more attractive to me. I like the idea that we were going to be disruptive, that we would elevate the many fights going on in Pennsylvania, that we weren't going to be talking about the same stuff as Fetterman and Oz and Mastriano and Shapiro. We were going to talk about the stuff they didn't want to talk about. So, and I knew that PK would do that, so it made it much easier for me to get in.
Absolutely. Michael, can you press mute when you're not talking? There's like some kind of
I can do it too.
Maybe it's me. No, okay. That's another thing that, you know, those of us in Pennsylvania have noticed is, oh my God, I'm babbling, but here's a good thing that happened today. I was looking for a watch party, okay, because I'm like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crash a Dem watch party, and I'm going to be like, who'd you vote for? Why? And then just kind of be like, do you know that he blah, blah, blah? And do you also know that he did this? And just kind of like, you know, swarm. And I only found one, and I think that's because the votes aren't really going to be tallied tonight because a lot are mail-in. And when I said, you know, where is this located? I was essentially told I'm not welcome there. And the reason being because they recognized me from being on all of the commercials. And I'm like, it's not my fault that dude lied. Like, all I did was interview him. You know, he's the one that lied about fracking. So, like, me being on those commercials, I'm not giving them the footage. All they're doing is using what he said. So be mad at him for fucking lying. Don't be mad at me. But yeah, it was bananas. I was like, holy shit. Like, I am not even allowed to go to a fucking debate watch party. How very democratic. Like, I didn't want to go anyway, assholes. I wanted to go to call your asses out. So, I mean, you got lucky. But tonight, I mean, you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is, you know I remember Paul Glover when he was running. I voted for him. I remember he had to fight to get a debate with the Libertarian because they wouldn't allow them on the duopoly stage, obviously. Were you guys able to have a third party debate?
No. We actually had forums that which probably could have been not a debate, but a forum. And only the third party tended to respond to, for example, like Berks area, which has the Berks Detention Center. It's a huge,
Right.
you know, and they didn't show up. They didn't respond. We also, obviously, you know, Richard Weiss, who's running Green for Senator, wasn't invited because they do some statistical thing. But the Libertarians did reach out to us to try to do a debate. It was really last minute. So, like, you have to understand, in the third party, we've been actually working together, which was kind of democratic, even though we don't all agree with things. We were all trying to get our voices out there. And so, you know, that was a possibility. We tried to schedule our own debate, but no, we were not invited. And in fact, if we were invited, the two parties would not show up. The major parties wouldn't show up. Michael, if you have anything to add.
Well, I just add, we did have debates that were scheduled, but as soon as the two major parties backed out, and they backed out immediately. I mean, Mastriano wasn't doing any of that stuff from the beginning, and then Shapiro wasn't going to bother with us. Then these civic organizations that were supposed to be organizing it, they just said it wasn't worth their time. So yeah, they got canceled. But we did have a lot of forums. I mean, we had a number of those. That was pretty nice.
That's the beauty of indie media, because like 10 years ago, never would have happened. So I've interviewed hundreds of candidates from across the country, most of them third party. And I know each state has a very specific guideline of if you need signatures, if you have to pay fees, if how to even get on the ballot. So what is it like in Pennsylvania? What did you guys have to do to physically get your names on the ballot?
Hey, Michael, I'm going to give this one over to you because I can't even remember. That was just like hell week. That was good. I'm new to this.
Well, first of all, it's set up in a rather disadvantageous way for third-party candidates. We have to get more signatures than the two major parties. The other thing that is, I think it's a travesty, is that we have to get, not only do we have to get so many, they make it kind of hard too, because what happens is they like to do things like challenge. Now, we weren't challenged this time, but when they challenge your signatures, when you turn them into the State Department, you have to go to, number one, they have to identify the signatures that are bogus, but then you have to prove that they weren't, and that takes time and money and volunteers, which we don't have. The other thing that's kind of screwy is they have this crazy thing called the primary that all of us pay for, but it really only affects the two major parties. We can't participate in it. Not that I necessarily want to participate in their party, but what happens is this: they have their primaries, they have their winners, and they get all kinds of free publicity, like Fetterman wins. And in the meantime, we're working our asses off getting signatures. And for instance, after we get on the ballot, the media doesn't even pay attention to us. I mean, we had to raise a ruckus just to even get anyone to even acknowledge that, that we're on the ballot, that the Keystone Party's on the ballot, the Libertarians are on the ballot. It's just nuts. And then the other thing that is really unfair is that we get more time, but that time actually plays against us because of they're getting all kinds of free publicity from the time their primary's over, and we're busy scurrying trying to get signatures, and we're just ignoring. Yeah.
And the signatures you get, do they have to be registered green?
No.
Oh, okay.
Any registered voter, even voters that have signed for the other candidates, the other mainstream candidates, are able to sign for us. But unfortunately, the well's been poisoned, especially for us Greens. What we get a lot of times is no, I'm not going to sign your petition because you're going to just ruin it for John Fetterman, or you're going to ruin it for Josh Shapiro.
Yeah. My personal experience in this is like interesting. Also, not only so the other two parties do not educate their own committees and people about the fact that they can all sign. I got lifetime Democrats that were like, I can't sign. I'm like, no, anybody can. Registered voter in Pennsylvania, you can do this. But there was this thing in some counties with like the Democratic committees, they made rules that they could not do that. So, it's mainly like stopping us from having the ability, like for people like having a voice, like saying, yeah, I want to have a fair fight. Like they can't even say that. They're like, if you can't see the oppressive aspect of their own party, like it's ridiculous. And it should not be that way. It should be all open. People can do whatever they want, willing to support whatever party you want, put your volunteer time in, whatever, but you don't get to bind me to like these oppressive rules. And of course, like I'm like ranked choice voting. Every single person, Democrat, a Republican, every single one of them wants ranked choice voting, because this like whole, of course, what Michael talked about, like this is oppressive, like just beforehand was ridiculous. We were definitely running around. And I mean, I hate that stuff. Okay, like I'm not great at it. I'm a watchdog. I go out and watch like things in the dark, like a creeper, as people call me sometimes. But going up and talking to people, I'm good at it. It's just that it's a little outside my comfortability range. You know, there's a lot of denial in it. Like you get denied, you get these people who are just, it's hurtful. And I'm just like, it's looking at it from a person that has, I don't get mad at them because they haven't been fully informed. So like these people aren't fully informed. And of course they're reacting to like the lack of information or the limited information they have. And that just that breaks my heart. And it really bugs me that the two major parties here have every ability to fully inform people, but they choose not to. So that's a choice. And so people need to see that. So that's my little rant.
Another thing I'd like to build on is that, you know, I don't know why we need to have a lot of signatures anyway. Lots of other states and other European countries anyway, and probably others as well. But you don't need thousands of signatures. You need a few.
Yeah.
And if if enough people say that they want to have you on the ballot, and you know maybe 10, then what's the problem?
I know signatures, whatever. Like you. Well, I mean, it's fine, but like even Katie Muth and stuff, which is a good friend of mine. Shout out to her. I love her. She is an independent candidate. She's a candidate. Okay. She is a candidate for herself, by the way. She is like amazing. So she told me, she's like, I got a petition too. Like we have to go back and like especially like the House of Representatives, they got to go back and do this. So think about the perpetual like work. When are these like, especially state representatives, ever willing to able to do their work? They're just preparing for the next election, which is so like, we want them to work for us. Obviously they can't if they're all like worried about doing fundraising, getting the petitions and getting your campaign together. It's crazy. I mean, and then that literally sets them up. They have money to do it. So like, if you want to get into this game, you have to have the money in order to get the staff and do that, which we're just at a disadvantage in the Green Party, like at like 100% disadvantage, which is just oppressive.
It is.
For the people.
Let me build on that a little bit too.
Here we go.
Yeah, you know, I looked at the House races this time. We have 203 state reps. They were all up for office this time. And I was preparing for one of the candidate forums that I was sitting in. And I started looking at how many House races folks were running unopposed. And I stopped counting at 80 because it's so disgusting. But, you know, 80 out of 203, we're talking more than a third are running unopposed. And then on top of that, about maybe 20% of the remaining races are even competitive. I mean, they are set up in such a way that one party is going to win. It's guaranteed. I don't think that that's a mistake. They have done that on purpose. And if they really wanted to give us choice, if they really wanted us to have choice, it wouldn't be set up that way.
And why are these people who are unopposed running and campaigning and finding like why are they even fundraising? Just like, can somebody, where's that money going? Why Shapiro have the most money ever? And yesterday he's like, please donate $10. So I'm like, so from what? The people who are literally don't have water, for example, in one of the many towns actually in Pennsylvania, they're fundraising for their money. And this dude's asking people in Pennsylvania to give him $10 for what? It's the last day. You've got it. You got it, buddy. Okay. You got your little landslide. Why are you raising? Where's that money going? What are you doing with it? Just bugs me.
I got some emails tonight from a politician. It's my last chance, blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, if you're in arrears, that means you can't balance your fucking budget, and I don't want you elected anyways. So step off. Like, seriously,
a lot of reform needed.
Yeah. So as far as voting, there are so many changes we need for Pennsylvanians and for the other states. Open primaries. That would change so much. Just if we had open primaries, you look at 2016, people were switched from Dem to Republican, so they couldn't vote. And, you know, all this shit. If it was open primaries, it would change so much. Paper ballots. What else would you guys like to see?
I'd like to see proportional representation. The way it's set up now, if we got, let's say miraculously, we got 5% of the vote, we wouldn't get 5% of the representation in the state house. We should. That means that a lot of people are just not represented at all.
Brilliant. Agreed with that 100%. Other things, my Lord. I mean, yeah, I like, there's just, I feel like it's so broken. Like, the whole thing just needs to be like wiped clean and like reevaluated by some very qualified individuals who are very aware of what is going on. And so, because it's all set up, and as soon as we like it's like a foundational issue. I look at it as like, if your foundation, any Mason or Freemason knows what this is, foundation ain't good, and you build on top of a broken foundation, what the heck's going to happen when you start building higher and higher? It's going to always crumble. It's like where they keep us, kind of unstable, and let's band-aid it, patch it up. At some point, you have to realize, like, we need a stable foundation in order to, like, build upon it. And I don't want to keep building upon an already screwed up foundation, which is, I mean, that's personally my opinion. What does that take? I don't know. Revolution, reform, revolution or reform. I'm more on the side of revolution at this point.
Yeah, I see that Jenna is calling for guillotines. That might be a possible solution. But the other thing that we need to think about is, and PK and I have talked about this in the past, and I'm sure everybody that's listening to this is talking about it. This system is not really broken. It's set up exactly the way that the 1% want it to be set up. I mean, Michael Pollack from March on Harrisburg says it beautifully. We operate under the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. And that's not the mythology that this country is supposed to be operating on.
Yeah, I mean, so how do we don't want violence and stuff. So I kind of like thought about it. Michael Pollack, by the way, was one of the best interviews that Michael Badgecan and I did. I mean, I learned so much from him. Like,
I just had him on recently too.
Ain't he great?
Love him.
Mm-hmm. And so I have this weird thing. Some people just don't believe the system that they have is like actually what Michael and I believe, or what we believe, or we see. It's basically what we see. It's not belief. It's like what you see. Okay. I love like nonviolent direct action, but like there's this whole thing I always said, and people on here who I think are listening might laugh in a second, because I always have said my nonviolent direct action is because people are so lazy and scared. Not lazy, but there's a lot of scared people who don't want to get up, or I'm going to give credit to like, people who can't get out and do things in the middle of the week. Why aren't we doing a mass exodus out of the two-party system you just got to click, you sit in your butt and click on a button and say, I'm just going to go. And everybody's like, you can't do that. You need somewhere to go. I'm like, fine, let's create another party, sustainability party, whatever, equitable party. Let's just do something, but like go undeclared. Just everybody mass exodus out and see how they freak out. Watch all those ads, watch all the things. They're going to blame us for like being paid by George Soros or something, like, like I just like to poke that bear, because if you cannot, and that's a scientist in me, like you test your theory. If there is no data to show the theory and everybody's just assuming it, then like, let's put it to the test. Really? How stable is this government and who really runs it? Take yourself out of the party and identify yourself as an individual voter and look at candidates as individuals. We have to start reframing people's brains or decolonizing them and start like actually asking people, stop blue waves. That is just, it literally they're telling you you're dumb. And you're like, or that's what they think of you, but you're busy. We all understand there's all these other reasons, but they're kind of like, they're trainable. Let's do the blue wave. And instead of that, we need to encourage people to actually take this as a priority in life and start researching and understanding the candidates. Where's their money coming from? And we as activists have to do a better job at laying out those pathways and like showing where the money's coming from and talking about that and like take them down early on. And really just make it normalized that we don't want people who are in office and are taking donations from corporations, because they're not, nobody gives money to you without a reason. Like, I mean, some people do, but not corporations.
It's a bribe.
It's a psychopathic thing. It is a bribe. Yeah. So they're owed. They owe something to somebody else. And Pennsylvania's corruption system is, like we got some really serious work to do. And that's why I do support, like Michael Badgecan is always working for MOH. He brought me into that world. I am 100% going to be like representing with March on Harrisburg after this. Like, that's one of the things I learned out of this. So yeah, I'm out. Like, you got to stop that. So like your M for all, like our Medicare for all, which you have always fought for, the disability, you fight for that. How do we, I mean, other people fight for, environmental justice. Some people are fighting for like, some of the decriminalization aspects, but all of it is bound to like this corruption issue. And that's why they don't do anything. So like, there's got to be at some point where we do a full attack.
Yeah, and that was part of the issue with, there's so much cognitive dissonance, there's so much hero worship of Fetterman, and you see, first of all, Hillary and Biden and everyone. Well, Biden not just was campaigning for him, Biden was actually fundraising for him. So while Fetterman's like, I don't take any money, big money, Biden's fundraising for you. He takes big pharma. He takes big oil. He's fundraising.
Military industrial complex. Like,
Yep.
What? That's who's running our state right now. If people don't get that yet, that's exactly who's got control. I mean, they're all in control of all that. They keep us at a place. But yeah, you're the one who knows that the most with that Fetterman interview, man. I love that. That is just, could that not even been better?
Can I change gears a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about March on Harrisburg, there's a group that we actually just formed. It's called Pennsylvanians for Action on Climate, and PAC. And it's a group that is primarily geared towards the intersection of bad climate policy and political corruption. So we are specifically targeting corrupt politicians because we believe that that's why we get bad climate policy. However, the reason I want to switch gears a little bit with that is that I came home from a polling place in Pittsburgh. I drove an hour and a half to get home. And as I was coming home, I'm listening to the radio, and there are all these pundits talking about the bloodbath that's going to happen today with the Democrats. And to me, it doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, whoever is going to be in office in January, we're going to have our work cut out for us. The Democrats are doing a horrible job on climate. They need to do better. We need to declare a climate emergency. The abortion rights, health care rights, voting rights, you name it. All those things need to be done. And there's one very important tool in the activist toolbox that is not used nearly enough, and that is nonviolent direct action. We need more people that are in the streets and shutting shit down. So anyway, on November 20th, this group, Pennsylvanians for Action on Climate, is going to be hosting a nonviolent direct action training. And we have got some nationally known trainers who are going to be participating in this thing. And I really, really think that if you are concerned about the direction the country's taking, you should probably attend this thing. And even if your issue is not climate, the idea of nonviolent direct action is applicable across many, many fights. And the other thing that I would say is learning about nonviolent direct action makes your toolbox bigger. And so I would really, I think it's important. Now, people think nonviolent direct action, they think arrest. Now, PK was in the bucket. That was a nonviolent direct action. She did get arrested. She went to court. But there were a whole bunch of other people that participated in that action, including me. I mean, I was next to the bucket, but I didn't get arrested. I was there for a specific purpose. And every nonviolent direct action needs those kind of people. But when you participate in something like that, all of a sudden you see how the process works. It's like anything. And maybe you won't be arrested the first time, but maybe the next time you will be able to do that. And you'll be the person that's in the bucket, or you'll be the person that's in the rocking chair. I got arrested in a rocking chair once. So I think that if you're interested in changing what's happening in Harrisburg, change what's happening in Washington, think about November 20th and Pennsylvania. I can't even think what their name is now. Oh my gosh. Pennsylvanians for Action on Climate.
So late for you, Michael.
What's that?
It's so late night for
It
you.
is late for me. Way past my bedtime.
I definitely encourage. I'm gonna be working with that group as well. Because he's absolutely right. And I've seen it myself. I've begged the oppressor. I've done things here in suburbia where we kind of took a softer like footing, and we just kept, it was like they were breadcrumbing us. And as soon as we did some nonviolent direct action, that got the attention. And it, in the court case, it doesn't end at the arrest. We have to take it to court, and that is like what we're changing. And so when I got that not guilty, I was just like, what? We were all shocked. We're like, wait, did she just say, what did she just say? Like, because we expected this norm, but you understand they're starting to realize, and that tells you a lot about the monster you're working with. You have to push and prod in certain ways in order to understand the system that we are working against. And we think we know it, but we don't. And he's absolutely right when Michael says that unless you like get involved, you're not going to see how that system really internally works. But oddly, he's right on both sides. The bad for me, I was just like, there's something freaky about what we did. Like, I don't know what we did. And my friend Jack, who's passed, I'm just like, oh my God, I wish he was still, because we did something different and it was not the result we expected, which was awesome. So that means we have this power, just like we're not done yet. The climate, we still have a chance. We have to have that positive aspect in this. And this is why we're doing it. We're not doing it as an anxiety-ridden, panicky thing. We're doing it to stand up and empower communities and locally organize and get people involved, because you have to see it from the side. You just do. If you don't only see it from one side, that's what you're limited to. I mean, inform people. They're empowered when they're informed. We have strong. Listen, we're only strong as our weakest link. And if people who are in power aren't informing people, you have to ask them why they don't, because information is power. It is like you give everybody the truth. Everybody's free. After I have the information, I give it to you, and everybody's fully informed. You get to make your own decisions as an individual. To me, that's freedom.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you know me. I will. Thank you for giving me
I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm 43. You want to arrest my ass? Go fucking head. I don't care. Like,
I saw you in DC.
Yeah, I was like, there's 10 of us dressed like zombies, okay, with freaking RIP tombstones, like dead of unaffordable care act and dead from rationing insulin, and we're walking as zombies all around the Capitol, and then I get this great idea to just walk through the Capitol fountain, and we're being threatened with arrest, and I was like walking with my white blind girl cane, and I was like, if you want to arrest me dressed as a zombie with my blind cane walking
Go ahead.
in the fountain, please do. It will be fucking epic. Please do.
And you're right. That's exactly the point. Meaning, when you do your due diligence, when you have these things, you have to understand that we use that optic as well. We have to use ourselves in some way. But the seriousness is like people are seeing that. And when they're not seeing it, so they're not aware of it. They're not informed of what's going on. I don't care if they call us, you've seen the people out in Europe, throwing, tomato, whatever soup on pictures that they're literally getting crapped on in so many ways. But you know what they did? They got attention, and they actually were okay. Yep. These people are trained. People who do nonviolent interactions are trained. And so we go through this in order because it's nonviolent. We're not trying to create violence. And they were just trying to make a point, and they got their point across, and it went viral. Whether people liked it or not, now people heard their message. There's also parody, by the way. I'm big into parody, like Monty Python style, because you have to get people to laugh a little bit. It's a tough thing, even in our activism world. So we have a lot of trauma in this. And so at some point, laughter is not a bad thing. But when we know what we're doing, our message is clear, it just gives us another action, another way to inspire people. And oxytocin is it's like the chemical weapon of the brain as a chemist. And so when oxytocin is released, it actually makes people in this place. And then all of a sudden, the next message that comes in, their brain receives it in a very objective way because it's released all of the bound patterns that we're programmed to. It's like the access chemical. So there's a lot of groups. Michael knows it. MOH uses it. I personally used it for again. We were demons for Mansion. Demons for Y'all recently. We've dressed up in demon masks and like cheered for Mansion at the Convergence, the Pittsburgh, whatever, false, solutions energy thing. And we just, yeah, but he was literally like smiling, and it shocked me as like the actor, like in my mask. And I'm like, I think he really thinks we like him. And it was like, it stopped me from what I was doing. I even like paused and like, I should be yelling things and they didn't take us out. We had everybody laughing. The police were laughing at us because we're like, oh my God, we love you, Mansion. Come back to hell. Come back home. Come back home. And we just like, we're able to get out this energy that was fun. And yet totally caught him on a live feed on camera. Like actually like, hey, they like me. Oh, like you saw it, which shows about it shows a lot about their mentality. So there's intelligent people, and then there's like people who are like very egotistical. Their intelligence, they think, and so you can see and to start to tear that apart by the way you poke at it. And this, we can be a look at the people we have in this movement. We are brilliant people from every type of, everybody is a resource. You have to figure out what you can provide. You're a resource, whether you're an accountant, a banker, I don't care. Something in your experience can be a part of this system that we create that changes it. So and we can have fun doing it. It's not fun times, yeah, we can do that.
For
with
sure.
sensitivity, obviously.
Do you guys think, like, I know a lot of us want this, but do you think realistically, we will ever have that European solidarity? Like, we're pissed off. Hundreds of thousands of us are going in the street right now. We are demanding what we want. Like, do you think our country will ever get to that point where we can stop being like, don't do it like that, and what's the point of that, and just actually do a mass movement in the street?
I think that's possible. Michael is going to answer this probably much better than me, but I'm going to do a quickie. We saw a bunch of workers like the Amazon and the unions organize and get some shit changed, right? That was not massive, but it was. It's actually pretty big. So yes, I think we can do it. But how do we get together in this place? They keep us divided. That's the whole psyops, psychological operation. Sorry for people who don't know that, in the two-party system. So we get a lot of people to get to, and we have to break that too. I don't know. I think yes, eventually, but it's not. It's going to be to a point if we allow the system to function as it is. It's going to be a breakdown, kind of like what we saw with Black Lives Matter. Like that was an absolute, just everybody's done. Like done, and still to this day, we have not addressed gun violence in any of these stamps. So you know what I'm saying? Can we do it? They wear us thin. We have to understand it. We have to look at the system for what it does. They have tactics. So, Michael, if you could, I don't know what Europe did, but whew.
Yeah, when I think about what people think of our government, I think of, again, something Michael Pollock said. If you look at the approval ratings of our government, it's somewhere between hemorrhoids and stepping in dog shit. And I think back to the election of 2016 in Butler County. I can't speak about any place else but Butler County. In 2016, during the primaries for the Democrats and Republicans, the Democratic primary was won by Bernie Sanders, and the Republican primary was won by Donald Trump. That told me that there were a lot of people on both sides that wanted drastic change. And I think that's something that is already here. We just have to find a way to bring things together. And then there was another thing that happened around that time, and that was the murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. I was part of an action in D.C. at that point, and we shut down FERC in the morning, and then in the afternoon we walked over to the Justice Department where there was a huge Black Lives Matter rally. And I was there, and I looked across the crowd, and I saw somebody that I knew from the anti-fracking fight, but I also knew that this person was a hardcore Tea Party person. And I was shocked to see him there. And I went over and talked to him, and he said to me something that has stuck with me forever since then. And that is, Mike, you and I probably agree on 80% of things. If we win those 80% of things, we can have a conversation about the 20% at our victory party. And going back to what PK said, I think that's exactly it. They work really hard at having us fight against each other, but we probably agree with a hell of a lot of stuff. And if we won that, then we'd become allies. And then maybe we'd have those conversations that we need to have. But instead, we allow ourselves to be divided. So, yeah. And the other statistic that really hops out at me is 140 million Americans are in poverty or near poverty. We're talking almost half of our population. There's something going on in people, and that was before the pandemic. I think that we're right for it. It's just we got to find out how to talk to each other.
I call it eugenics of the poor. Like, that is, essentially what we're watching, and it's terrifying. And there are just so many people who are so complacent in their privilege and their cognitive dissonance, and it's how do we break through? Like, if someone's essentially saying to you guys when you're door knocking and such, that doesn't affect me, how do you bring them into having some empathy?
Easy. I was one of them. Like, at one point, where I was working for the DoD, like in supports that I grew up in a very isolated, like encapsulated, but not like there's something core value in me that allowed me to hear, I don't know what it is. I don't know the difference, but the reason how I talk is I kind of try to empathize and explain to people how I got there. And I have unique ability to do that, especially when we're talking like gun control people. I'm like, yeah, I kind of developed some stuff. And I watched it being used against sovereign nations in this damn country. And that blew my freaking mind. That's what changed me over. I was like, what the hell? That's supposed to. But then I'm like, wait, it wasn't even right in the first place to be over in Iraq or anywhere. It started me thinking about myself. And that's the kind of story I tell to people. Like, you don't have to be stuck in this place. And you know what? It's kind of like when you have people who are kind of afraid to get out of a hate group, for example. They feel like they're like going to get beat up or something. But no, there's a support aspect. You can go through this and you can change. Just because you lock down in a mentality doesn't mean that's who you are. That you don't identify with that. Figure out what you identify with. And typically what we all identify with is what? Being human. And I think we should be walking in love, obviously. And a lot of this thing tells us to walk in fear. They keep us in a fear-based state, which, if you know anything about fear, causes anxiety. And then we make decisions that are impulsive and not thought out. They're coming from a place that's not through a good lens. And I don't know if I answered your question, but I just get woof about this.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, there's another thing too that I think we need to think about, and that is the tendency to otherize people. And just for example, I'm not going to pretend that I'm really good at this, but I live in a very Trump. I just looked. What's his name? Mastriano kicked ass in Cherry Valley. He did really well, and those are my neighbors. But they aren't the demons that people tend to make them out to be. You hear people talk about Trump voters, and you'd think that they can't think for themselves, and that they're nothing but racists and all that. But the fact is, they've been screwed by the system. It's just they found a different solution. It may not be the one that I agree with, but we can start having a conversation. And I've been elected in Cherry Valley since 1989. So my neighbors know I'm an eco-socialist, that I'm for the Green New Deal, that I'm for abortion and all that stuff. But we agree on a hell of a lot of stuff that's important about Cherry Valley. And so we can have those conversations. And we can even disagree, but we can at least talk. And I think that's something we're so tribalized now, we can't even talk to our neighbors. And that needs to stop.
Yeah, that's those hot button topics like our bodies, things that they have no business talking about, but it's very emotional, right? And so one of the things is, you're absolutely right, Michael. Actually, I love that you said that, because it's the same thing for me. I mean, I literally have people all across the spectrum that were like, I voted for you because I know who you are as a person. I got to know them, hence why private campaigning is good. But these are people I've known in my life, and they're just like, yeah, like I get what you're saying, is like, you care about the community. And that's why we, as Green Party, Michael and I ran, is like to localize and locally organize, get involved in your local, community organizations and movements, because like, you have to learn about the disparities and what's going on, the injustices, or support, and get to know that, because that's what each community, we're the foundation of this stinking nation and the state. If our communities are not strong foundationally, then we're building on a really broken, it's not going to work. It's going to tumble. And so you have to start addressing those things. And when you get down to that level, you can all agree. Like, people don't want their trees torn. People don't want things. Maybe they don't understand why. It could be for different reasons. But like, that's why I love my science. I come in there with like, that, which, I mean, you can't argue. It's not a belief system. Yet they start to learn because they're open to it, because that they don't like it either. So, otherwise, if I'm talking about climate change, they make it an economic, like fracking, we're going to ruin the economy. They're not listening to the science for some reason. So me as a scientist, I have a duty to actually see why they're not listening. And those local discussions are so critical. I'm staying with my neighbors. They all love me. They, think I'm very, like, I've watched everybody's house here. They call me to like watch their dogs. And so like, they trust me. When this political crap comes around, people won't even look at my face, because I'm running for governor. Oh my God, it was so crazy. I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, like me. But now I've gone too far. What? Like, and so there is he's right. Like, there's a discussion to be had. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to build on that, I don't know how much longer we're going, but I just want to build on that too. In that the other thing that's happened, and I think this is intentional, the 1% is doing this on purpose, but we've lost community. A lot of people don't know their neighbors anymore because you have to work so much. You don't have time to volunteer at the local fire department. You don't have time to go to civic events. You have to work, and then you have to relax, because that's all we do is we consume and we relax and we sleep, and then we go to work. And so we need to rebuild that community thing. Just another example.
Better support.
Yep.
For like single mothers, for example, right?
Yep. 2015, I got a phone call from a mother. She said, there's a well on fire near my house. And I went down, and it wasn't a well on fire. It was a well flaring. And I was alarmed. So I went around talking to all the neighbors. And this one woman I talked to said to me, I asked her what she thought of the well. And she said, that she was a little bit alarmed by it. And what are the neighbors saying? I asked. And she said, well, we have a good community here, but we don't talk about the tough things. And to me, that really indicates that there's a breakdown in community. A small little rural community, you don't talk about the tough things, like your kids getting poisoned. So we really need to build community too.
I think that's an individual thing as well. In certain relationships, we have hallmark holidays like Valentine's Day. Oh, give a card. But you know what? The best Valentine you could give is like talking to your partner about the tough things, the things you argue about, the things that like we cannot talk about. That's investing in actually the things that create a foundation. If you just let it go, it just perpetuates and builds on top, and then you explode, right? So like it's really kind of ingrained into us, and we're kind of distracted by a lot of these like holidays. And so what do we do here as individuals? We have to take a stand and start like talking about that as individuals, because we can literally create a shield against that stuff when we're actually informed that that's harming us. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, stop making like weird commercials. Government, please do this because you care about us. I've seen what happens. We're not crazy. Like it's a standard asset. Why is it important for us to talk to our neighbors? Well, because I mean, that's why, Michael, it's funny. Like you said that my mom and parents, like people in my neighborhood are like, they know I'm coming down. I'm talking to you. Like I'm talking to you. I know everybody here, and they're just like, I don't care what their opinion of me is. But at least I started a conversation where we start, and then all of a sudden people ask me questions. They'll come to my weird pipeline display, Halloween display, and be like, "What's that mean?" Like, they start, they feel that it's okay to come and talk to me. But if everybody else is looking at you and everybody's afraid and make that eye contact, but we have no social skills anymore, so we're sitting and watching Netflix all night. Like, come on, you have to gain your social skills back. And as a person with social anxiety issues, that was hard. That's a challenge. That's like, I have to work through that. So it's not easy. Michael had to deal with it. I'm like, petitioning? Oh no. Like, and he's like, you're in big mouth. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, there's still the anxiety. But you have to practice. Yeah, you have to practice. You can't just like stay, you don't stay bound to that. That's not you. Like, it's something you have to conquer. It's one of your challenges in life to conquer. And we have to like support each other in doing that. And the activism movement is beautiful. I mean, we have like grief circles. We have groups that are doing like basically conflict revolution ideas to start helping communities. Yeah, start helping communities talk to each other. That's where we invest our time. And so I think people are starting to realize that we're sometimes feel like we're catching up, but actually the civil rights movement, like nonviolent direct action, it's been around for a while. There's some brilliant people doing it, and it's safe. It is actually a very safe place that actually considers the trauma in it and is such a good, like a family. So, yeah, it's not scary.
Awesome. So as far as tonight being, votes are being counted through the night and everything, what do you think we can expect? Not just who do you think will win, but also what do you think there will be anything advantageous come from either one of the possible winners, or how should we proceed? What do you want to take from this election?
Before we take from, I would like to talk about, for example, Philadelphia right now, there's a lawsuit that was, how their votes are not going to be counted. So everybody needs to know that they're not going to be counted tonight. And my partner who lives in Philly actually was talking about like this lawsuit that was placed against, and the Philadelphia County Commission. I watched their thing, and they said, we don't really need this like extra layer of the system, but because we don't want to like have this all like, again, here, let's just like not like hold up everything, because if we say notice, they actually reenacted it. So now the process is going to be a little longer, and Philly's got to deal with this legal aspect, which is BS. People are waiting. But on the other side, Shapiro, I think we're going to see the same thing. It's insanity, right? I don't know what's going on with Oz and Fetterman, but I'm very proud of Richard Weiss. He's getting some good attention. I think what we're going to see is people going back to sleep and getting prepared for 2024 instead of like dealing with the problem. So we as activists have to really kind of bring up and start getting some bold maneuvers that actually, in at least Pennsylvania, prevent this crap from happening again, like ranked choice voting on a ballot or something.
Absolutely. How about yourself, Michael?
Yeah, I guess it depends on who wins. I think if Mastriano wins the governor's race, then we're going to see a lot of outraged liberals. They're going to move to Canada and whatnot. At least they're going to talk like that, like they did with Trump. There're going to be a lot of anger. And hopefully what we can do is we can start channeling that. Look, you did this last time, and what did it get you? Let's try something new. Let's break the system. If Shapiro wins the governor's race, then I think we're probably going to get a lot of folks on the right fired up. But again, that needs to be rechanneled. Who are you angry at? Are you angry at Shapiro, or are you angry at the system? So I think we need to be working on. We in the Green Party and other folks that are activists, we need to be ready to strike when things hit the fan.
May I thank you, Michael. Like that, brilliant. But I really want to say one thing. I have seen how people blame the third party, and I'm really getting kind of nutsy about like accountability. So if your party did not, like, they don't, that's why I'm saying they don't look at people as individual voters, as like people. I mean, they talk about, what do you call it, voting intimidation. I'm like, what the hell are like the third party going through? I mean, is intimidation is defined as what? Well, what about like the neglect? Why don't we have like voter neglect aspect? So like bringing up those cases. So if Mastriano does win, of course we expect that we're going to get targeted, but the statistics don't show that. We actually bring people to the polls. So like we have to start talking about the things and not reacting to their dumb ass, like non-accountable things, and say what it is. Like, you didn't do these things. You didn't codify Roe v. Wade. You didn't codify any of the cases with the LGBTQ and marriage. You just didn't do that. Why? So you're going to blame us because people actually are like, I understand what abuse is. And once you've been a survivor of abuse, you never walk back in to an abusive situation. So you just know better. You're a survivor. So you cannot expect, it's almost crazy that people think that people are going to walk into another abusive system and like consent to that. Do you understand how traumatizing that is for somebody? Like, you're consenting to your own harm. Like, now that you know, it's so we have to have a conversation with a lot of, like, there's a lot of grief in the system. This whole stuff's not working. Okay, we got to grieve that now. We have to talk about things that are just the hard things again. But yeah, I think what we're going to see mainly is a lot of finger pointing. And that's sad. And that's what we, as the Green Party and third party, and everybody who's strong and understands and sees that, we have to be a little bit better and not react to it. This was a challenge for me with everybody who was trying to be like, I'm like, oh, so I wasn't trying to gaslight people, but like, I don't know if I was. I'm like questioning myself. I was like, I understand what you're saying. I have been gaslit by scientists about climate. We're gonna die, and that's like making me. I'm like, I'm sorry. Actually, as a scientist, I have to be accountable for that. That is not helping us get that message through. So I'll do better. But however, like, we are seeing this, so we're kind of freaking out. Can you see that part of us? So yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of finger pointing. We have to do better as people who are talking out in public and try to stay strong and respond, yet not react. So that's just my message to peeps.
And there was a few years ago at a Bernie town hall in Vermont, I saw this woman speak. She's from Congo, and she was talking about how she doesn't understand vote shaming because she came to the US and she had options, and she thought it was the most wonderful thing in the world. Like, why do people shame people for voting green or voting libertarian or voting independent? Why? You guys have choices. That's beautiful. So many of us were just told, you have one person, you're voting. What's the sense of even voting? And it was like, it just put it in a whole other perspective. Like, we have an option to vote for who we believe is the best person to match our belief. And party is irrelevant. So yeah, I was freaking proud as hell to vote for you guys. That's for damn sure.
I'm proud as hell to have earned your vote. So like, I want.
Well, you know what, and I said a little earlier too, before we started the show, to Michael, as a disabled woman, to be able to vote for another disabled woman, that was very awesome for me. That was very inspiring and very awesome. It really was.
I'm like the covert disabled, and you're so strong because like you talk about it, and I'm learning to, which is like wow. Okay. Woo. That's awesome. Yeah. I don't get to talk about it much, but it's something that's true, and I kind of like, I'm learning how to get out of my shell in it, especially when you're a covert. It's just like people think, and then they're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, that's not the best way to go about this anymore. Like, being out and proud is probably a better way. But I have a strong set support, like people like you who are fighting for that and have already broken those barriers. which I'm so proud of you for. Like it's not easy, and you know it. You go out there, you're like, I'm talking about my stick in a fountain. You are not afraid, and this is the thing. I am so proud to have find this community of not afraid women and men and anything, just individuals. I'm a fluidic person, so you know, I just love all of these beautiful energies that we're coming together. We're gonna do this. Like they can't stop us. They don't get that yet.
Oh, you give me goosebumps. What is something you guys want the viewers to take away? What is a message you want them to take with them?
Talk to your neighbor.
Walk in love and stop book. Just don't let people fear's okay. It's okay sometimes. Just don't let them manipulate it. Like you own it. You own your fear and you learn about it and you conquer it because you can. You're capable. So let's elevate each other and stop putting each other down.
Absolutely. I can't thank you both enough for joining me, especially on such an important night. And please, whether you're in PA or elsewhere, please keep your eyes peeled for our results. Also, we are still looking for some testimonials. PK and Michael, you may not have heard, M for M for All. We have been working with human rights lawyers, and we have compiled an official complaint to the Human Rights Council of the United Nations to basically call out the United States for leaving millions of people without health care. So we are collecting video testimonials as evidence, essentially. People who, I've been through this, I have medical debt, and we are sending it with our complaint. So that is going to the United Nations Human Rights Council. So we are finishing that up and just collecting more testimonials. Anyone watching, if you want to send one in, it's m4m4all.org. It has never been done in history, and we want the U.S. called out.
I'm doing it. You're amazing. Well done to all the M4. Thank you. Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
That should be. You're changing some shit. Disrupting some corruption.
I bet you anything Jenna Colby's happy about that, huh?
Jenna, what's up?
Jenna, my Lucy girl. Well, thank you both so much for joining, especially such short notice. I wish you guys the best of everything. Please reach out and send me any links or anything. Michael, please send me the link of that event on the 20th. I'll make sure I'll share that out. And thank you both so much. Much love. You were both amazing people.
Thank you so much, Joy. And Michael, thank you for being such an amazing running mate.
Much love. Thanks for watching, guys.